All right, it's time for the big reveal. Before we get to this week's episode of Guitar Tune Tuesday, we're going to reveal which guitar was which in last week's blind shootout. Triple O versus Slope Shouldered Dreadnought, Sitka Top, Mahogany Back and Sides edition of the show. If you have not watched that, please go down there right now and do so. Here we go. Guitar number one, coming in around $3,500 currently in Canada. The Gibson J45 Workhorse Slope-Shouldered Dreadnought. And therefore, guitar number two, coming in around $1,100 or $1,200 in Canada right now as we speak. The Eastman E6 OM. Both wonderful instruments. Thank you again for your guesses. There were some good ones there. Now on to the show. Hello everybody, Lucas Haneman here. Welcome to this week's episode of Guitar Tone Tuesday. Hope you guys are having a good week so far. I know I am. I'm trying out this guitar and I'm doing something different with it. This is kind of my experimental telly. I'm in a lucky position to have three Telecasters. They're all different. This one was made by a guy named Jesse Brown from Toronto, and I think many of you know this guitar. I've had it for many, many years now, and it's got Filtertron pickups, so it's not your typical telly. Now, as I'm in a lucky situation to have as many tellies as I do, this is the guitar I play around with and do different things with. For the last couple years, some of you may know I've had this guitar tuned as a baritone with some really thick half-round strings, which are kind of halfway between a round wound and a flat wound. And I'm kind of liking that kind of darker sound and the feeling of those strings, but they were really going dead, like dead to the point where they weren't staying in tune very well anymore. So I had to try something different. Now, I was rummaging through one of my guitar cases, and I found an old set of flat wound strings. And, you know, flat wound strings just tend to get better with age. So these strings are, I don't know, probably about 10 years old. I haven't played flat wounds in a long time. And I believe they're 12 to 56 gauge that I had on a Gibson guitar I used to own. And, yeah, well, I put them on this guitar, and I'm pretty happy with them. They sound very, very cool. You know, it does that swampy bluesy thing. But it would also do the jazzy thing really, really well. You know, this kind of... wasn't my intention with this guitar, although, man, it sounds very cool, right? It kind of reminds me, I don't know if you guys ever listened to Ted Green, an amazing solo guitar player who often played Telecasters. Man, kind of takes me to that place. Let me turn off the tremolo, though, or tremolo. Some people give me a hard time for the way I pronounce that word. And let's just hear it clean for a second. So again, like my intention with this guitar is to do kind of a rootsy thing. That's pretty cool, you know? With a little bit of overdrive, though. Pretty cool. And I got this thing tuned to D standard, so it's a whole tone lower than a typical guitar, which really takes me into a different place, you know? I'm someone who's really affected by tunings. Because of that, I tend to not really play an E flat as much as some people do, just because it kind of messes with me. It messes with my sense of pitch and everything like that. And but I do like it, you know. I do like it from time to time, and I'm not opposed to it. But if I'm going to go low, I like to go a little bit lower than that. So this is D standard, which means that the whole guitar is tuned from D to D. I used to have this guitar tuned from B to B, and I found that, you know, that works really well. I might end up getting it set up for that eventually and get the proper strings with a bigger nut, you know. But as for now, you know, I do find that this is a bit more stable in D, and it still kind of takes me to that place where I can get almost baritone style sounds, but in a more natural range for this guitar, you know. So I'm liking that so far, for sure. And I guess all this is to say, if you are lucky enough to have multiple guitars, don't be afraid to experiment with the type of string you use, the gauge of string you use, the tuning you use on different guitars. The cool thing about this, with these strings that are as thick as they are, is I could bring this down to like an open D tuning. I guess it would be like an open C tuning because of the tuning, or open G, which would be open F, and I could play it with slide as well, which just would take it even somewhere else, So don't be afraid to experiment. People don't think of Telecasters as the guitars for flat wound strings, but I'm inspired by it, And for me, I see my instruments as tools. They're there for recording purposes, for maybe getting a different sound. So the flat wound strings paired with these Filtertron pickups really makes for something unique, And it kind of, it could be also that kind of Jimmy Vaughn type thing. If I picked up a pick and, played something a little bit more in that kind of Delta blues style, or maybe, some more shuffle. So I'm in the key of G, which is more like F. Getting used to the flat wound thing again, it's very different. No friction at all on these strings, but pretty fun. So let me know, is this the type of thing you've done with the guitar before? Have you experimented with different strings, lower tunings, higher tunings? All these kinds of things are possible, and as long as we stay creative, we can think about different sounds, different tunings to inspire us on different guitars. That's about it for this week. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, ring the notification bell, and we shall see everybody again next Tuesday. Bye-bye.